Hello friends, and welcome to another weekly question. This week's question comes from Ashes Arise, and they want to know if we could only play one video game for the rest of our lives, which one would it be and why?
First of all, no, not my house. I'm not this cool. But so for a game that I would want to play forever and ever, I guess it kind of depends. So if I can play it with other people, I'm gonna pick an MMO, obviously, because those are, you've got the longest legs, there's a lot of content's usually added to them. Also, usually it depends on like who you're playing with, but you're probably gonna have a good time. There's just a lot to do, a lot to see. I would pick Guild Wars 2 for that because I put the most hours into it. I have almost all of the classes leveled up, and I'm just most familiar with it, and I think the gameplay is really good. So that's if I'm allowed to play with other people. If it's like a situation where you're playing by yourself, I'm not gonna pick that because MMOs alone are sad. So if it's a solo game, I'd probably pick Viva Pinata because I love that game and I could farm pinatas forever and ever.
My first instinct is to say something like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, games that get me very addicted very quickly, but the problem with those is I always burn out after about 80 hours or so. So if I had to pick a game at this very moment to play for the rest of my life, I would have to pick Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because even though I'm like 60 hours into this thing, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface and maybe seen like 10% of all there is to see, and I don't even know how much stuff I have left to do that I haven't even figured out yet or discovered or come across or any of that. So my hope is with the rest of my life I could find and do everything there is to do in Breath of the Wild, but even then, probably not. So that seems like a safe bet.
So if I could only play one video game for the rest of my life, I would probably pick Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, hear me out, I know it just came out, but I've had very little time to play anything, and I really wanted to stay on the hype train, or get on the hype train to begin with, and I'm nowhere near done. I've maybe spent 15 hours in Hyrule, so if they said, whoever the powers that be are, said, alright, 1 till the end of time, given that there's so much to do in Breath of the Wild, I mean 900 Korok seeds, I would probably go with that. So, it's not so much as what is my favorite game that I would only want to play forever, but a question or an answer of utility.
This is a tough question because very few games can really give you that really addicting gameplay that wants you to keep playing it over and over again without you getting bored. So for me, the easy answer is Tetris. So this game has been around for decades. There's been many different iterations of it, but at its core, it's got a really simple premise. You line up and match up different shaped pieces, and then as you line them up, the waves clear. And that to me is what makes it so replayable, is that the concept is so simple, yet it's addictive enough and the puzzle is just challenging enough that it hooks you and you keep playing it over and over again. Now, would I want to play this from now until forever? Probably not, but if I had to pick only one game to play for the rest of time, I would need something that's simple enough yet challenging enough to keep me interested but not overwhelming, and Tetris is the easy answer.